So I usually don't do this, but I'm going to kick this one off because 2023 for Keystone has been one of our top priorities has been to increase what we call increased stakeholder engagement. And so we have a larger innovation economy and innovation stakeholders around the bi-state region who are already established innovators, leading innovation, leading entrepreneurial support, doing amazing things from an innovation perspective. Our role is to simply try to create a place where we can integrate those partners in, allow them the opportunity to create intersections between them and so on. And so we've been trying to find ways using the platform that we have with this community center to integrate those partners into the work we're doing. So for me, this is a milestone moment because this is the first opportunity that UMKC, University of Missouri, Kansas City, and the work that they're doing with the Innovation Center and with the work that you're going to hear about tonight. This is the first time that we really had an opportunity to integrate them into kind of what we're doing here at Keystone. So I'm excited about this. For me, this is a milestone. I'm checking a box tonight, so I appreciate both of you being here. So I'm going to let these two wonderful ladies introduce themselves, and I'm going to get out of the way so you can learn about what they're doing at UMKC. Thank you very much for being here.
Hi, everyone. My name is Charlotte. I am a project coordinator at Technology Venture Studio.
I'm Jill Meyer, and I'm the director of the Technology Venture Studio at UMKC's Innovation Center. And as Kevin said, we are thrilled to be here. We work closely in this community, super excited about what Keystone has been doing. So much progress and so many innovations, and happy to be here today. So, thank you. I'm going to give you a quick overview of the Innovation Center and then jump into Technology Venture Studio, which was what we kind of previewed that we would be talking about today. And then Charlotte's going to take over and talk specifically about her journey in product development, how that relates with us. So the UMKC Innovation Center works with community founders, students, researchers, the entire umbrella of entrepreneurship in the community, from folks who want to start a restaurant or a food truck, through childcare, through professional services, up through technology. So we run the whole gamut of programming to help businesses and all the support services, one-on-one counseling, training that goes around that to help businesses get their ventures up off the ground. And let's try again. Do I need to be pointing it a certain way? There we go. Okay. So at the Innovation Center, there are 4 primary pillars. One is Technology Venture Studio, which is where Charlotte and I are, and then we're going to talk about more. The second is the Entrepreneurial Education pillar. This is our Elevation Lab. For those of you who are perhaps familiar with that name, that houses our Small Business Development Center for one-on-one counseling and all the educational training programs. It also houses Apex, which is the federal government assistance if you were trying to sell your product to the federal government, and it would help you with that. And it has our Scale Up program. So for businesses that are already in the marketplace and doing roughly $250,000 in revenue and wanting to scale to the $1 million and beyond level, it's a program for that. Mark Calhoun, raise your hand back there, is one of our technology business counselors in the Elevation Lab and works closely with Tech Venture Studio as well. Then we have ecosystem development, which for most of you will know as KC SourceLink. SourceLink is the network in Kansas City. It was a software that was built to capture all the resources that are out there for you to tap into. There's 243, I believe, on last count, resource partners that are a part of it. So anyone that is offering assistance of any kind, classes, trainings, one-on-one funding opportunities, et cetera, they're going to put that information on KC SourceLink, and it's a great area for you all to go and tap and say, what do I need assistance with? From that, we also have Missouri SourceLink, and there's over 600 and some resources in that. So if you were leaving the Kansas City area and going to be in Springfield or Kirksville or St. Louis or wherever, the Missouri SourceLink covers the state. And then the last pillar is global expansion. We now have licensed the SourceLink program out to over 80 different locations around the United States and Puerto Rico. So other economies and cities that are also looking to develop their ecosystem around entrepreneurship. So why we're here is Technology Venture Studio. Technology Venture Studio focuses specifically on founders that are looking to innovate a tech idea, something that is core to their business model, and it would go from very early stage, how do I build this? I have a concept, all the way through I want to grow, raise a lot of money, and have an exit. So we're going to take you through 3 of our featured programs, Whiteboard to Boardroom, Digital Sandbox, and KC InvestEd. All of them a pipeline for what we're doing in the tech space. So first, Whiteboard to Boardroom. Whiteboard to Boardroom is a program that works with researchers, either out of research institutions or places like Children's or Stowers, things of that nature, where you have faculty, lab, postdocs working to come up with a new and novel idea. They'll go through a patent process or a tech transfer process and have this idea at research, and it partners them with people in the community who say, hey, I'd like to build a business around that technology, matches them together and helps them to bring that idea out in a commercializable way. So Whiteboard to Boardroom, obviously the whiteboard boardroom aspects of it, is to make those connections, help the researchers who have uncovered something tap to somebody who is the business person in the entrepreneurship ecosystem that says, I want to build a business around this. We have, as you can see, 23 different partners with Whiteboard to Boardroom that we work with to identify technologies that might be of interest to anyone here. And then we work with them through what we call the TAP process. I'm certainly not going to walk you through all of this, but essentially we work very closely with the research teams to help them identify getting it from research through. We do videos, we post it out, we pull together these groups that we call brain trust meetings to help them identify what are the areas we don't have assistance in, where we have our gaps, and get them all the way through to getting it to a startup business and pulled out of its research institution and now a viable new tech startup. That's just an idea of the type of showcases that we'll do. The next program is Digital Sandbox, KC. Digital Sandbox is a proof of concept prototype development early stage fund. It is almost in its 10th year since it was launched in Kansas City, and this gives out grants up to $20,000 for businesses that have a concept, they've possibly built a early stage MVP, and they need that $20,000 to prove out their model, build their prototype so that they can move on to the next level. It essentially is money to help you move the needle on where you are today to where you would need to be so that you can now go out and either raise more money or have customers or that sort of thing. It is for core technology businesses in Digital Sandbox. They do have to have a digital component of some sort. And where we find Digital Sandbox here is in the early stage. It sits almost in the bottom of an area right now where we have very little funding. Certainly in Kansas City community, we have very little funding there. So it helps fill that gap of I have an idea, I maybe gone through an early stage accelerator, maybe I've taken some courses, then I'm going to go after the $20,000, and then I'm going to move up, and hopefully through all of our partnerships with people like Keystone, Launch KC, Pure Pitch Rally, Pipeline, they move on into investment in VC. And that's the goal of the Digital Sandbox program. Quick impact here, some names of companies you may or may not recognize, but since the program started, we've funded 180 proof of concept projects. They've had $220 million in follow-on funding from the $3.6 million that we've given out. So it's got a tremendous ROI. We see it as an incredibly successful program in Kansas City, and one that we hope anybody who is in that space would be interested in talking with us to say, hey, do we fit? Is this a good thing? We want to get that money out there and get it to people that are building a tech business in our community. And on that note, I would be very remiss if I did not mention that we are currently accepting applications for Digital Sandbox. I would get in trouble when I went back to the office if they said, "Did you mention that?" and I had forgotten. We take applications 4 times a year. Every quarter, we see presentations the first 2 months of every quarter, and we make funding decisions the 3rd month. So one of the other great things about Digital Sandbox, it is not a winner-take-all sort of situation. It is an ongoing. Every quarter, we fund 4 times a year. You probably have seen some of the stories and press releases. So we fund 3, 4, 5 businesses each quarter. And so it's a great opportunity if you have something to take advantage of it. And then we have a program called KC Invest Ed. And KC Invest Ed was brought together as an idea of many entrepreneurs said, we don't know investors and we do not know how to access investors. And when we talked to investors, they said, we don't even know other investors. So it was built as a program to connect investors to other investors and investors to entrepreneurs. The concept behind it is very much a matching, and we have lots of different ways we do that. I'm going to start on the far side at the Capital Conversations. These are small group coffees or dinners that we pull together of 8 or 9 people. Half of them are entrepreneurs and the other half are investors. And it's an opportunity in a small kind of intimate dinner setting to really get to know the other people and leverage their networks. So while you or I may not have access to the community of people that need to know about my business or need to fund me, these other individuals ideally do. And they open and share their network with you. Then we have a platform that we've built called CapMatch. So you would go into CapMatch and put, I'm looking to raise $150,000 and I'm in the fintech space and it's a SaaS model that does X, Y, and Z. And then there are investors that come into the platform on the other side that say, I would like to invest in early stage businesses, or I only invest in energy businesses or climate tech or things of that nature. When an entrepreneur goes into it, then there's a matching mechanism that's done, and we reach out to those investors that would be interested. So it provides really early line of sight to companies that are really trying to raise money, and again, maybe don't have the networks and the community for access to who are all the people I should be talking to. So it's a great place for those founders to start. And then we always are connecting. So we do a capital raise boot camp, which is an all day. We have 4 or 5 different speakers that come out of the VC firms that talk about different modules. So one will cover valuations, one will cover the term sheet, one will cover how to talk to your investors, how to manage them, those sorts of things. And we do these sandbite panels that are really about once a month, where we pull together a topic that's brought forth by all of you, saying, hey, we would really like to know about X. And then we go and find the kind of subject matter experts in the community or past founders that have struggled with that, have already done that, and have them come talk about it. Startup Boards is also a program that we do. So for those of you that have already got your business to a certain level and you're now got 3 or 4 or 5 or 7, however many advisors, and you're trying to find out how's the best way for us to manage these advisors, and or I'm looking to raise money and I'm going to be going to a fiduciary board and I don't really know how to manage that. The Startup Boards is a 3-week workshop that's going to, again, be a mix of potential board members, so people in the community that say, I'd really like to sit on a startup board, and then startup founders that will say, I need knowing, how do I run this? How do you take minutes? What are Robert's rules of order? How do I, et cetera, et cetera. So we'll run a program like that to help. And similar to CapMatch, we have a board match platform so that if you were looking for a board member that had a specific expertise, you could put that in and match with those people that have come on. Okay, additional programming. I mentioned sound bites already. We also have roundtables. Roundtables are where we pull together founders that are at the same level of growth, and there are about 7 of them, and they meet monthly. It is a peer-to-peer, one of our best programs, one of the programs that we get the most feedback of. I love it. I would miss it. I'd miss anything else except for this kind of thing. You'll find, I'm sure you guys have already experienced it as early stage founders, you have a lot going on and it's scary, and your spouse or your family members, they don't want to hear it anymore. They've heard it over and over, and you're going home and talking to them, and you sure as heck can't tell the people that are working for you, I'm not sure we're going to make payroll this month, or we just lost our biggest contract, or things of that nature. So your roundtable is an opportunity for you to have these discussions and talk with people to who are going through the same thing, and share experiences on how should I handle this? Should I hire Bobby? Should I fire Sally? Should I do this? Should I do that? And it's once a month. And I'm sorry, that was my fault. And then office hours, which is a new program that we started just this spring, is once a week. We have both digital sandbox office hours, which is an opportunity for you to sign up and come in and meet one-on-one with the digital sandbox team to say, here's our idea, here's what I'm thinking, punch holes in it, how does the program work, what do I need to know? And then product development office hours, which is my segue to Charlotte. And product development office hours are also once a week. Charlotte's going to tell you more about that. But they are every Thursday afternoon to come in as well to say, hey, I need help on scoping this. I need help on understanding the big picture of this, or I have the big picture, but what are the specifics underneath it that we're missing? And Charlotte will go into detail for you on that. So with that, I just wanted to go to questions before we jump to Charlotte, and she's going to drill down specifically on the whole product development program that Tech Venture Studio has as well. So any questions on the Innovation Center or TVS? Good to go. I covered everything and then some. Yes. Yeah, good.
That I didn't think I had. But putting the application together and really venturing into this space is new for them.
Yeah.
So what is that process?
Super
look like?
good question. And Charlotte, I'm going to hand you this. So the process is online. You go to the Digital Sandbox website, digitalsandboxkc.com, and you'll see the application. It's a two-step application process. You need to fill out the application, and it is going to ask you things about your target audience and your market plan and what you've done so far, what you think for financing or how you've financed it so far. There's probably 10 questions, maybe 12 questions, none of them that are hard, but it's just an opportunity for you to fill out kind of the state of where you are now. That's going to come in, and then a member of our team, Jennifer, is going to reach out to you and talk with you about, okay, this makes sense. Digital Sandbox is funding for the Kansas City region. So if you were sending an application, which we get sometimes from Georgia, from China, from even Topeka, we cannot take those applications. So she would talk to you about that if you had that down. And or because the grants are up to $20,000, sometimes people will put, when it says what financing are you asking, and they'll say I'm raising $1 million. Much as I wish Digital Sandbox was a fund that we could give out $1 million, it is not. And so she'll talk with you about, is it $1 million for what you need 3 years from now, or is it $1 million now? Because if it's $1 million now, we're not a good fit. If that's what you hope to find, but first you need to build the prototype, then we're a good fit. Then you have a second part of the application, which is from our funder. So it's basically a demographic. Where are you now? Do you have jobs right now? How many? Where are you geographically located? Things like that. And then you are signed up for a time to present. We had presentations today. We have presentations every other Wednesday for the first 2 months of the quarter. It's a 10-minute presentation and 20 minutes of Q&A. There's an evaluation team that is there. The way we think about it is that anybody who has a core tech business and is interested should take the opportunity to come, because it is not a winner take all. It's not the best of the best and only one of you is going to get funded sort of thing once a year. So we encourage you to come and get the feedback from the eval team. They're all very experienced individuals that have done it for a while and can really shed a lot of light on ideas and or questions to help you rethink maybe your model, or a network of, hey, do you know this other founder that's doing a similar thing? You should meet, that sort of thing. And then decisions are made at the end of the quarter. That, as I said, that third month, it's announced, and then you move on and start the whole process again the following quarter. Does that answer your question? Yes. Perfect. You bet. Yes.
I might have missed it, so I do apologize. You said core tech. So can you explain to someone who might not know what that means, like what core tech means?
Yeah, no, it's a good question, and I'm sorry I shouldn't have used lingo, so to speak. It is for technology businesses, and what I mean when I say core tech is that at the heart of your business is based on the technology that you're building. So let me give you an example. If you are running a dress shop and you want to build the website to sell your dresses online, the core, your business is a dress shop, not a tech business. So you're using a website to facilitate your sales, but your business is dressmaking, right? So when I say a core tech, it's that I have come up with an idea of how to use VR, how to use something that's in the SaaS platform or an AI or something. I'm going to identify a problem that's out there. I know the technology will fill that gap, and that's what I'm building. Does that help? Okay. Any other questions?
Yes, good evening.
Yes.
Hi. You spent quite a bit of time. This on, isn't it? Yes, on. Okay. You spent quite a bit of time talking about all the opportunities there are for tech people to talk to other tech people
Yes.
about what their issues are. As a person who is also an entrepreneur, I am often eager to talk to tech people who are at the same level that I am. Do you offer that type of opportunity where tech people can talk to non-core tech people?
Yes.
Because often we can help each other, but we're not often in the same spaces because of the silos created
Yes.
by things like this.
Absolutely. Excellent question. And in fact, I will address your silo for a moment first. Is Technology Venture Studio came out of the need to break those silos and not have just a program over here that did funding, a program here that did research, a program here that did investors. So yes, one of the biggest things we have are requests from individuals like yourselves and other community people, retired. I've been a CFO for however many years and retired, and I want to get engaged in the community. And we have tons of requests for advisors and mentors, and I'd like to talk to somebody in this space. So in fact, one of the things Charlotte worked on, which is not part of your presentation, but the last 18 months, we were running the Comeback KC grant, and one part of that was for each founder coming up with half a dozen different advisors on different subjects. So you may say, I need someone that knows tech, but I might need also a banker, or I need someone that understands e-commerce, or whatever it was. So we rely on that group of individuals, and we tap it all the time to say, hey, would you be interested in talking with this company, or how can I connect you together? Is that what you were asking? Oh, I'm sorry. I misunderstood. I thought you were saying that you as the advisor. Thank you. Yes. Yes, gotcha. I see you. Yeah, go
So
ahead.
you can join our newsletter. We'll have a QR code. There we usually provide updates on companies and things like that. But if you're in our system, then we know and we understand your skill sets, then we can identify you as the person that we can find you to speak with.
Yep.
Hi, everyone. As I previously introduced myself, my name is Charlotte Clark. I am a project coordinator and a contractor at Tech Venture Studio, and I'm here to talk about new product development offerings. So as Jill already spoke about, there's office hours, and then very recently announced is a product development sprint, which is a 3-week program. Okay, so I'm going to really quickly go through my own background, and then we'll move through. But you might ask yourself, why is this person up here speaking about or educating about product development? It's because I have a product development background. So after I graduated from MIT, I moved here and I worked at Cerner for 6 years as a software engineer. About 3 years in, I decided that I didn't want to just be heads down working. I wanted to work with people. I wanted to understand more about how you build products. And in that space, I realized that product management was the thing that I was really excited about. And although I didn't have any experience, I then decided that I can just jump into entrepreneurship and offer product services to founders. So at the end of 2020, I actually transitioned out of Cerner, became a CTO for an early stage startup. which is no longer around, but it gave me a great kind of jumping off point to be in the startup space, to be speaking with founders, and to be providing them advice and consulting versus services to founders who consider themselves non-technical, who weren't really sure how to build products, and try to attempt to help them build a technology. So since that point, I've really been within the ecosystem the last 3 years. I've worked at accelerators, I've been advisors in a few accelerator programs, I've worked one-on-one as a consultant, and now I'm part of a startup support organization as well. And all of this experience has really provided me, I believe, a great kind of foundation to be able to speak directly to founders and to really help them build and grow their businesses. So the first offering we have is product development office hours. It has been started in June and will continue through, I don't know, forever. Just kidding. But it'll be on Thursdays, 12 to 5 p.m. There is a calendar link up here where you can book 30-minute time slots with me. Those are like one-on-ones. You got a very specific question and you really want to make sure that we talk. Or you can walk into the Innovation Center office at 4747 Troost. And I will be there from 12 to 5, and you can just ask me anything. These are some topics I've kind of listed as far as things you might want to ask me about. They're all topics that I've talked about and discussed and presented on. So I can provide as much kind of context as possible and also provide and point you to other resources that you might need. And then what arguably really exciting is this product development sprint that Tech Venture Studio has allowed me to help develop to service Kansas City early stage founders. So I want to preface this and say that this offering is not directed specifically at non-technical startup founders, but it is, I believe, really going to be helpful for those founders who deem themselves non-technical. But if you are any person at any point and you're like, I don't really understand product development, I see myself as non-technical and don't feel like I would be able to understand technical knowledge or communicating with product people, this class can also be for you. It is going to be a 3-week program. There's going to be Tuesday lectures during your lunch hour, so you can kind of sneak out and come hear me speak, in which we are talking about a topic every week. On Thursdays, there will be virtual panels that will feature product professionals, so you'll be able to learn more about people who work in this space and make more connections, kind of broaden your network of product people. And then all throughout the week, there will be office hour time. At these lectures, I will assign assignments, maybe not necessarily homework, but all week you will have time to kind of apply the concepts I'm teaching you to your own business, to your startup, and there's office hour time for you to ask those questions. How do I do this thing, but apply directly to the startup I'm working on right now? There's also going to be a showcase event September 19th. This will be when participants in the 3-week program will be able to showcase what they've basically worked on. There will be other product professionals there at this event, and so you'll be able to have those conversations one-on-one about your startup and also be able to show them kind of what you're thinking about in more detail. Okay, so I'm going to really quickly go through kind of why this program exists and why it was kind of started. So last year I did a 3-day boot camp about the same kind of context and curriculum, but this year is a little bit more advanced as far as like robustness and ability for people to follow along. But really the inception of this sprint in programming was around the fact that a lot of people see like non-technical and technical people as kind of two separate entities. So in my mind, it's really kind of a spectrum of like how non-technical and technical are you, but there's usually like a line that kind of separates the two. And kind of on both sides of this line are two different kind of groupings of assets or knowledge that people have. So for a lot of non-technical founders, you're thinking about vision, you're thinking about market opportunities, you're thinking about pitches, and all of that is really great and important for your business, but doesn't actually translate into anything technical. So as someone who is a product-minded person who wants to help founders, I have had a few founders pitch me their big idea, the opportunity, how much risk is involved, and all of that is great, but it doesn't really tell me anything about what you're trying to build. And so this is usually where product professionals are at, is that they want to know more about the scope, they want to know about requirements, they really want to know about the details of what you're trying to build. And sometimes it's really hard for non-technical founders to bridge over into the space where they're able to detail out what they're building. So because of this kind of issue, you now kind of less have a spectrum and more like a huge gap or chasm, I guess, between non-technical and technical knowledge. One way in which to kind of bridge that gap is where a lot of founders go, is that they would need a CTO. And as someone who has been a CTO, it is a way in which you can kind of bridge that gap. But as someone who has a lot of people who are like, oh, I need a CTO, and they're like staring directly at me. I'm only one person. And CTOs are also a small, very small group of people. So if you find one, you're great. But if you don't find one, it's not like it's the end of the world. So as a startup who might find a CTO, that CTO can then translate all of your non-technical information, vision, business, understanding, all of that, and then communicate directly with a product professional, kind of pass the whole, like, what are your requirements type of thing, but really talk about that directly. But for those founders who do not have a CTO and cannot seem to find a CTO, I'm hoping that the product development sprint will be that bridge for you. We'll go back. I'll get there. But basically, the sprint is really to provide information related to the professional process. So I didn't really talk about this, but you kind of saw on the slide. Week 1 is design, week 2 is development, and week 3 is strategy. So in each of those, there's kind of like a linear understanding of, as a designer, I do step 1, I do step 2, I do step 3, and then I have a prototype, for an example. This process and the programming is not to teach you how to be a designer, but is to teach you some of the steps you can take as someone who doesn't have any of that kind of knowledge base, and get you as close as possible to being able to hand that over to a designer, and then have that designer be able to create you a workable prototype, for example. So this is to really just show that, like, you're going to have steps to get closer. They're not going to be the same steps because, again, not trying to teach you how to be a designer, but at least communicate closely to how a designer communicates with you back. So this is kind of some of the information that we'll cover over the 3 weeks. And hopefully, as someone who is a founder and who might deem themselves as non-technical, you will be able to create low-fidelity wireframes. You will be writing a version of user stories and development requirements. And you will also learn about prioritization methods for scoping out the type of product you're trying to build. Really quickly, the slide I skipped is really to kind of define what product development is. There's a lot of definitions and ways that people define product development. But from my perspective, it's really about kind of taking all the business requirements you have on this side and turning them into a way in which you have customers who are satisfied with the product you're building. So everything about product development is all around the customer and user. And then you have these kind of 3 separate entities that are working towards the customer and working towards the user, but are also working and collaborating with each other to make sure that there is a product and a product experience on the other side. And so that kind of building and development then, 1, increases customer and user retention, but then also provides a feedback loop back to your business model, to kind of the strategy you have in your business, and it just continues and continues along. Are there any questions about product development sprint, about anything I just covered? Oh, yep. Okay.
You hear me? Great presentation. This question will go kind of to both of you guys. She touched on it a little bit before, but more to the funding for ideation stage projects, especially in the tech side of things in Kansas City. My question to you both is why do you guys think that there's lack of funding in that space, and what do you think that Kansas City, whether on both the entrepreneur side and both the investor side could be done to be able, like you just said, kind of bridge that gap? Do you think it's possibly because of the project development side of things, that great ideas but no technical things to that, or is it a possibility that, you know, it's just kind of a risk management kind of thing, being in the Midwest and waiting for something to kind of pop off first?
That's a great question. It is also like a 10-layered question. I'm gonna say like one level or layer of that is, I think there is limited understanding between like how investors write you a check and then give you that fund and money, and how founders are able to like get to that point. So, and I think part of it is like media and like the, I don't know, fanfare around being a successful founder who pitches and can raise millions of dollars. Investors don't just like sit around and like wait for you to pitch them and go, oh, that's a great idea. Like here's $100,000, like take it and run with it. And I think there's just a limited understanding. And so it feels very much like there's not a lot of investors, or there's not a lot of funding, or whatever that is. Investment is, and VC investment is only one like option. There's plenty of other options. There's other ways in which you're able to build your startup that have nothing to do with like trying to pitch people and get money. So it's a super nuanced, I would say, kind of answer, but that would be the thing I would say right now in the limited time to answer that as possible.
I would agree with Charlotte. I would add that really good businesses are still going to get funded. And so the question, doing things like the product development or the sprint, or having those things so that you have honed that technology, that product as best you can, is going to put you that much closer to being a business that someone is interested in funding. And then the flip side of what you were asking is, we clearly don't have enough funds in our region to really help drive innovation the way we would like to do it. But we do have, so we have Digital Sandbox, and then when I say we, I mean us, but the Kansas City region, we have things like Launch KC on the Missouri side. You have the MTC Idea Funds on the Kansas side. You have Grow Kansas Funds, and other funds that are all at that early stage, either grant or public-private partnerships, before you would ever need to get to the VC level. And then to absolutely agree with you on your point, you know, that we are Midwest nice in this area, and we do have less risk tolerance. And so a business has to be either further along in revenues or customers to get the interest of some levels of investment that maybe in different parts of the country that wouldn't be happening. But the stronger your product, your technology is, the stronger it's built, the more you have the understanding of how what you've built is going to scale. That's a strong business model regardless.
So if you would have said any day besides Tuesdays, I would have been like, yes, but you said Tuesdays.
Tuesday lunch.
In
Tuesday
3
lunch.
weeks, right? So after you wrap in September, are there plans to relaunch another sprint, say at the top of the year or something like that? Or do you all not know yet?
I guess like yes and no. So like I said previously, this is like the second version. If not with Tech Venture Studio, there will be individually more versions. So I individually am trying to figure out if I can turn around a virtual, like all virtual product development sprint in a few months after the August one. But I would say very surely we will have another one coming up. I'm not going to try to say that we'll get it by the end of the year, but yes.
And is there an application process, or you just show up?
No application process. You just show up. You register on our Eventbrite, which I don't have it here, but like if you go to the website and meander through, you'll get to it, and or on LinkedIn. Either way, go to our website. You should find it there and register on Eventbrite, and then just show up. We'll send you more information than like you popping in, but how to get access to the building and all that.
And it is a registration process because it is a 3-week sprint. So you can't say, oh, I can't come week 1 and 2, but I'll just pop in for week 3. That's not the way Charlotte has designed the curriculum. So it is a registration so that we know how many people are there, things like that.
Right, but it is no application. I'm not asking you tons of questions about like, do we want you in this program? It's really open for everybody. I would love to teach anybody who wants to come. So as long as you register on Eventbrite, you're good. Can we pass the microphone over? I think there's, oh, sorry.
Hi, so I don't know if this is something you're going to cover in the product development sprint, but I did notice it in when you were covering the office hours. I saw that you were assisting founders with like validating their product. I'm not sure if, like I said, if that's something in the sprint, but can you talk a little bit more about how you guys support people who are needing to, at that validation stage, trying to validate that product?
Yeah, so the idea of validation or product concept validation is part of the sprint. It is like a pre-week. So technically there is a week 0. It'll have like basically level setting curriculum. So like a little bit of concepts about how do you validate that what you're building has users, what types of users are there, things like that, that will then be kind of pulled through the 3-week course. But it will be like all recorded stuff you do like a week before you show up. So yes, that is also covered.
Thank you.
Yes. So outside of what you're offering as a service to help people, because to your point, you are one person, are there other resources through either or all programs that help to bring people up to speed? Because I think one of the things that was kind of showcased there is that there is a lot of language that is unfamiliar to a lot of people, and that gets lost in translation can create either apprehension, apathy is what it looks like, but it's not, and people don't quite understand what is it that I'm actually walking into. And they may be working on a technical product, but they don't have the language to understand some of the things that you've mentioned. So when you talk about where are you in your funding rounds may be a completely new concept to people who have, well, if you're talking to disenfranchised communities, funding rounds were not a real thing. Just like friends and family round is a myth in most disenfranchised communities. We don't have family members who just give us $250K to try something out. So how do you all manage that part of it in terms of your on-ramping process? Because to your point, you do have, it sounds like, quite a few slots available for people to apply, but a lot of people are not applying because they do not understand what they're stepping into.
I think part of that we are very currently doing is making sure that the team of us is available to talk to people. So we come to events like this so that we are visible, so that in any case you have a person who's like, I'm thinking about an app idea, you can be like, oh, Charlotte or oh, Jill knows something about that, and kind of providing that one-on-one support to be able to really understand and work through like what exactly do you have and then what kind of resources are available. To your point, yes, I think that there's like a on-ramp kind of process that needs to happen that is not just like us speaking to people, because that only gets to so many people who, you know, happen to know about you. But I do not think or cannot come up with what that thing would be right now that exists currently in our system.
I would say that even like where Mark, raise your hand for a second. Okay. So Mark works in our Small Business Development Center aspect, and they teach some very early stage classes, one of them being Tech Venture, which is a 9-week class, Mark, correct? 9-week class that takes you from the earliest, what is this idea you're building, and teaches you the vocabulary, the language, when someone says, have you done product market fit, you don't feel like deer in headlights of I don't even know what that means, but you're walking through what that is and all the way up through that. So there are similar things like that then that the Elevation Lab offers for classes on pitching. A class on capital would say, okay, what is the vocabulary? First and foremost is that level of familiarity that you do feel comfortable and that you're not like, I can't do it because it's too big. It's too, I don't want to look like the one person in the room that doesn't understand what's going on, right? And so I will just say this personally from my standpoint, something like Digital Sandbox, it is structured very to be not a room full of sharks that are going to drill on you on why this, and this, but is intended to say, tell me more about why you've targeted this customer, or help us understand why you're doing this. And so the idea of it is intended to help you get that knowledge and then connect. I 100% agree with what you said, and it is a forefront of intentionality on our side, certainly at UMKC, programs like Kevin's at Keystone and many others, where we are intentionally saying not everyone comes from a background nor a network that is going to move the needle for them from here to here. What open those doors? What are we doing to connect the language? What are we doing to connect the people?
And that's all for questions.
I see we're at 6:59, so I.
All right, give it up for
All right,
Charlotte
thank
and Jill.
you.
Thank you guys so much.